Welcome, everyone, to Buddhist Center. Let's begin with the teaching that Lord Buddha gave for us to know what fences in the teachings, the teaching called the Four Seals. And it says, Duje tamche mitapa, sanche tamche dugyanwa, chu tamche dongshin dameba, nyanyen le depa shewa ho. And what that means is all composite things are impermanent. All contaminated things are of the nature of suffering. All phenomena are of the nature of emptiness and selflessness. Transcending sorrow is peace, or nirvana is peace. In the language of the gods, Nagas, and Yakshas, in the language of demons and of humans too, and however many kinds of speech there may be, I shall proclaim the Dharma in the language of all. Laike dan lu dan no jinge drupung da da mi ge nan dan dro wa gong ji da nan ji zang ba dan che ke du da gi ju den do. The one who transformed into a reliable guide motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher, Sugata, and protector. To you I make prostrations. Sema joba dola benche ba domba deshe jola shatse lo. And that was from Acharya Dignaga's Pramana Samuchaya, where we see the homage to Lord Buddha that then Acharya Dharmakirti found so amazing that it contained the Buddha's life story. It contained everything within it, that he wrote many, many hundreds of stanzas about that. So we're fortunate to be able to have those teachings in our world. And we always say, let's start with the most magnificent motivation in the universe, bodhicitta, the wish to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. As the great master, Lord Maitreya, defines it in the Abhisama Alamkara as the altruistic intention to achieve the highest awakening, highest enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, for the benefit of sentient beings. That highest enlightenment we know is Buddhahood. So this idea that we would generate, this idea that would be spontaneous in our minds, we wouldn't require these thoughts to get us to them, has obviously causes that make it come about, make it so that it is this spontaneous realization. So before we get started, to kind of help us with this motivation, to make it so that it feels strong, make it so that it makes sense and convinces us that we really should somehow generate this mind that aspires to enlightenment. Let's look at Lama Tsongkhapa's medium-length Stages of the Path to Enlightenment. This is a beautiful text translated by Philip Korku. I'm not sure how to say his name exactly. I apologize if I said it wrong. This is a beautiful translation, and it was written after the great treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment, and it has more of a practitioner's. It's all practice, I understand that, but it feels more like a practice manual, like some of the Panchen Lama's texts, than the Lamrim Chemo. It's shorter, and it's very, very moving. So I was reading it today, and I thought, let's read this small section just to set our proper motivation uh, from the beginning part of the Mahayana. It's called Entering the Great Vehicle, chapter 14. And I think this is a fantastic way for us to set the motivation, to know kind of what we're driving at, know what bodhicitta is, know how important it is. So let's just read what Lama Tsongkhapa has to say here. So it says, how to train the mind in the stages of the path of persons of great capacity. We know that's the Mahayana, how to train in those stages of the Mahayana path for those persons who would practice the Mahayana path. Those persons who practice the Mahayana path are bodhisattvas. You become a bodhisattva by generating bodhicitta. So what are the stages of the path for those persons of great capacity? How would you become a person of great capacity? How would you become a Mahayanist? You would become a Mahayanist by becoming a bodhisattva. The entrance into the Mahayana is bodhicitta. So it says, so now this is the Lamrim, of course. So this is the first section after Lama Tsongkhapa has convinced us about the faults of cyclic existence in the teachings shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity. So Lama Tsongkhapa's first few sentences here are referring to the fact that there's an assumption being made that you are an expert in the teachings shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity. When I say an expert, it is because, as Bodhisattva Shantideva says in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, if we haven't even dreamed of our own suffering, how could we imagine someone else's plight? So it says, the way that we train is through meditating in this manner on the faults of cyclic existence from different perspectives for a long time. You will see cyclic existence as a pit of blazing fire. So Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, okay, now that I've given you all of this information in the teaching shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity, now you should be convinced, because there's been so many different perspectives that's been given. And if you meditate on those, it says over a long time, not 1 day or 2 days. Lama Tsongkhapa is saying over a long time from different perspectives. If you think about the 8 types of suffering presented in the medium scope and the 6 types of suffering and 3 types of suffering, and you think of all these different perspectives of suffering for a long time, then you will see cyclic existence as a pit of blazing fire. And as Acharya Dharmakirti says in the Pramanavartika Karika, the truth of suffering that the Buddha is talking about is actually the conditioned, pervasive conditioned suffering. So this is what we really need to know about. And we really then also need to know about the suffering of change. Because if we don't know about the other 2 types of suffering, the suffering of change and pervasive conditioned suffering, and we only know about the suffering of suffering, we can think that we have renunciation, okay? But we really just have anger at the suffering of suffering. So Acharya Dharmakirti says in the Pramanavartika Karika that it's so important to distinguish this, because what happens is when we have just anger, we're angry at the fact that we have the suffering of suffering. We're angry we've lost a loved one. We're angry that we've gotten a disease. We're angry that a loved one has gotten a disease. We're angry that, again and again and again, we keep having these, kind of painful experiences and these worries in our mind. So then we throw ourselves into some sort of spiritual practice and we say, I must emerge from this life because I must emerge from cyclic existence because it's absolutely awful. Almost like, you're willing to give lip service to cyclic existence being bad, because really the thing that is bad is just your experience at that moment. So you're relating what is the problem of all samsara to only one very coarse problem, and that's the suffering of suffering. And so you have some sort of terrible experience, you become shaken up, and then you throw yourself into spiritual practice, and then your life becomes better. And then the suffering isn't there as much anymore. And maybe you get a new relationship, you get a good job, you get a new car. And then suddenly, you no longer have the aversion for suffering. You have attachment for the suffering of change, the actual happy feelings in samsara, which are suffering. So you still now move from this anger, which is not the middle way, anger at the actual suffering of suffering. Now you have the suffering of change, and now you no longer have renunciation. Non-renunciation is there again. Because the object of renunciation isn't the suffering of change. Acharya Dharmakirti said the Buddha intended that the pervasive conditioned suffering, this kind of lack of independence, being forced again and again and again into among the 4 or 5 contaminated aggregates, forced by our contaminated karmas, afflictions, their corresponding active seeds, and at the root of it, the self-grasping ignorance. So real renunciation is an overview of samsara and realizing that we're forced into it by self-grasping ignorance and wanting to renounce that. So knowing that you're forced again and again and again into these states where you have no freedom makes you recognize that you're in a blazing pit, no matter where you are, no matter what happens. So you could, for instance, in a real life example, you may have a job. You go home every day and say, this job is so terrible. This person that I work with is kind of a jerk. and then you say all these other reasons that aren't the problem. It's really keeping me from my potential. I won't be able to move forward in this job. I should really have a managerial position. And then all of a sudden, the person you don't like at work quits and your boss gives you $40 a week more. And then all of a sudden, oh, well, it's not holding me back. I don't want to be a manager. So suddenly that job is just fine and you no longer want to quit. So you block the potential that you were about to have because you were seeing it as a barrier. But the kind of rub that was the real problem that was making you want to quit is gone. So you're forgetting about all of the other things that are holding you back. And that's what the happiness in cyclic existence does to us. It blinds us. It makes us think everything's okay. It makes us say, oh, okay, you take the good, you take the bad. As soon as you're done with that suffering you're so angry at, and you say, I got to get out of samsara because it just stinks. As soon as that suffering's over, then you're willing to say, hey, you got to take the bad and take the good. There's the good days and the bad days. And then all of a sudden, your spiritual path doesn't matter anymore. So one needs to become thoroughly convinced, according to Lama Tsongkhapa, at looking at the perspectives of your own suffering over a long period of time, that cyclic existence is a blazing pit. Cyclic existence is a prison. Every happiness that you have is just a little moment of joy you're having in prison. But wouldn't it make more sense to not be in prison and not have to eat prison food and hear prison jokes, right? And have, this appearance of true existence and grasping at true existence suffocating us? And just, as Gen Jeffrey Hopkins said, and it's kind of coarse, but he said, just eating the shit of intrinsic existence. Just eating it and believing it's something other than it is. Believing that everything has all of these established qualities, myself, you, all other phenomena, that is just making me have to again and again and again be in prison, again and again and again, be in a pit of blazing fire. And once I've become convinced of this, then we can do what Lama Tsongkhapa says. You see your mothers, in the same predicament that you are in. So it says, your mind will be thoroughly overcome by the desire to attain the liberation that completely pacifies suffering. So this is where you need to be at if you want to generate bodhicitta. This is the mental basis. If because of that you train in the three trainings, you will attain liberation that is freedom from cyclic existence. So you become convinced, if I practice the three higher trainings of ethics, concentration, and wisdom, I can be out of this blazing pit. I can get out of this fire. You become convinced of it and you want to. You say, I have to get out of. I have a determination to be free from the self-grasping ignorance that's throwing me again and again and again into this blazing pit. And it says that you become convinced that you can achieve a nirvana, a liberation. It says in the Four Seals, transcending sorrow is peace, or in Sanskrit, nirvana is peace. So it says you could become convinced for yourself that nirvana is peace and that samsara is the opposite of peace, is a blazing fire, is a blazing pit. You become convinced that it's reversible. Okay, so you figure out that you have self-grasping ignorance and there's an opponent to it that's a wisdom that's in direct opposition with it. It's a discerning mind whose apprehension of objects tallies with reality. So there is such a thing that tallies with reality. My mind not tallying with reality is throwing me in the pit of cyclic existence. I'm convinced that I can have a mind that tallies with reality and have peace. So now it says, you've recognized that this peace isn't like the splendors of higher rebirths, because those things change. You can go from the desire realm, the form realm, the formless realm, and back to hell, and back to the form realm, and back to human, and then an animal, and then a slug, and then a hungry ghost. That even if you're in the highest realm, one of the types of suffering in the 6 sufferings is descending from the high to the low and shucking off bodies. So it's saying that the splendors of cyclic existence are reversible. Nirvana is not. And you should know this because you've studied enough to know this beyond a shadow of a doubt. Nonetheless, extinguishing one's own faults and achieving excellent qualities will be limited. Okay, so I decided that I want to get out of cyclic existence. I want to have the most ideal situation for myself. But then I come to find out that the most ideal position just for myself is not an abiding nirvana, which is the nirvana that I would achieve with just renunciation of wanting to get out of cyclic existence, renouncing the self-grasping ignorance, and trying to apply a path which is an opponent to it. So then it says that nonetheless, extinguishing one's own faults and achieving excellent qualities will be limited. Wow, nirvana is limited. Okay, now there's something strange going on. You're telling me there's a state of peace, and now you're saying it's limited. And what we come to find out is that state of peace is an extreme peace. So it's limited because you aren't allowed to have your mind expand to infinite beings because there's still remnants of the self-cherishing attitude there. It says, and your own welfare won't be complete. So you have limited excellent qualities and your own welfare isn't complete. So you have renunciation, as Lama Tsongkhapa says in the three principal aspects of the path, the desire day and night to seek transcendent liberation, the desire day and night to get rid of self-grasping ignorance. So then you have this idea, and then you recognize that, okay, that's not going to, what is it that I need to do to make this complete? For that very reason, you will temporarily neglect the welfare of beings. Wait a second. This extreme of peace, this path of this individual liberation path, where I'm just worried about myself, is an actual neglect going on, a neglect of the welfare of others. And when we look at technically, we say that the coarse self-cherishing attitude is gone, but the subtle self-cherishing attitude is there for an arhat in the here and solitary realizer vehicle. The subtle self-cherishing attitude is there, which means I'm oblivious to others. I'm not actively saying I'm more important than you, but I'm oblivious to you. It says that I'll temporarily neglect others' welfare if I only achieve that abiding nirvana. Why temporarily? Because the Buddha will come and tell you you aren't done. And you'll have to go to work again anyway. In the end, you will be urged by the Buddhas and have to enter the Mahayana. Therefore, the intelligent enter the Mahayana from the start. So this is an urging of Lama Tsongkhapa to say, don't stop at the medium scope. Yes, I've given you the teaching shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity. Don't stop there because you're not complete. You won't be able to be the most reliable guide in the universe, and you won't be the one gone to bliss. So this is a warning not to be sucked into this idea of the world's too much. I'm just going to become an individual liberation vehicle person. And then from the Compendium of Perfections by Master Arya Shura, it says, those whose nature is of one taste with altruism abandon forever those two vehicles. Here, solitary realizer, translator note, that have no power to bring about all the world's aims, and enter the vehicle that the victorious sage taught out of compassion. The happiness, magnificence, and capacity of beings is to take responsibility for the welfare of others, because to observe only one's own welfare is something even animals do. Therefore, the natural disposition of the great beings is to categorically strive for the benefit and happiness of others. From Arya Nagarjuna's letter to a student. I think that's Acharya Chandragroman's letter to a student. I apologize. We'll have to look that up. I'll look it up. I'm sure it's the Acharya Chandragroman, but let's make sure. Let's not say something that's not right. Letter to a student, Acharya Chandragroman. Yay! Okay, so from Acharya Chandragroman's letter to a student, it says, when a cattle see a mouthful of grass that is easy to eat, they can eat it themselves. When they are greatly tormented by thirst and find some water, they drink it with relish. Here, whoever makes effort to bring about the welfare of other beings is magnificent and excels in the skills of great, happy individuals. Traveling, riding across the sky, the powerful sun illuminates all. Regardless of the burden, the earth supports the world with everything in it. Those without the least self-interest, equal in nature to great beings, totally strive for the singular taste of benefit and joy of the world. That being so, those who see how sentient beings everywhere are tormented by suffering and who toil for their welfare are called persons of great capacity. So here you see this switch. I'm normally toiling for my own welfare. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I must work for my welfare. And now, and I'm tormented by my suffering, and I work for my own welfare. Now I'm tormented by your suffering and I work for your welfare. Who toil for their wealth. What's toil mean? We'll have to look up what. So they work really hard for their welfare. Okay, so those who work really hard for the welfare of others who are tormented by suffering are called persons of great capacity. Thank you, Lorinda. My English skills are lacking sometimes, and she's got quite a dictionary. And okay, so a person of great capacity is tormented by the suffering that other beings have, instead of just being tormented by their own suffering, and then work for the welfare of other beings. And then it says in the same text, Acharya Chandragoman's letter to a student, those who have seen sentient beings confused by dense gray clouds of worldly ignorance. So you have to know you're confused by dense gray clouds of worldly ignorance to see somebody else's. Oh, he's got a problem, I don't. And they fall without control into the blazing fire of suffering. So this is what it's saying. Lama Tsongkhapa is saying you had to see this as a blazing fire. And then Chandragoman's saying that they fall without control into blazing fire. So you have to see that you're in a blazing fire. And then you see, oh, other sentient beings fall without control, like me, into a blazing fire. And who mentally toil and exert themselves as if fire were blazing overhead. So this is really important here. This has got to be explained. Now they are great beings. They are also the wise. If you have your hair on fire, you will definitely want to stop it. Imagine how much you would want, you have fire on your head, Imagine how much you are on fire, you would try to put it out. So looking at someone else's suffering, a bodhisattva would feel that kind of urgency about somebody else's three types of suffering, wanting them to get out of them. The same kind of urgency that a person like me would feel like, oh my God, my head's on fire. That's a lot. Seeing any suffering, seeing somebody drive by in a Lamborghini, two beautiful people in a Lamborghini with the top down, seeing them in a blazing pit of fire. And seeing that as I have fire on my head, I see them drive by and think, Ninji, my gosh, they are stuck in a blazing fire. They are under the control of self-grasping ignorance. They're indulging in suffering and they think it's happiness, but it's just bait. That Lamborghini bait, that partner bait that keeps them from actually seeing that we're blinded, confused. It says confused by dense gray clouds. And the confusion is reinforced by the bait of cyclic existence. Because it says like, you take the good, you take the bad, right? But we don't have to take the bad. And when you're in the middle of the highest pain of the bad, you never say, well, it's okay if this happens sometimes. It's only when it changes into happiness that you're willing to go, whoa, that was bad. But you take the good, you take the bad. Look at how our minds work and look at how fragile our spiritual practice is. There exists an entrance way to the Mahayana that possesses the great skillful means such that by working for the welfare of others, you accomplish your own welfare without any incompleteness. So there's an entrance way to the Mahayana, which is bodhicitta, which is a result. All composite things are impermanent. All impermanent things are caused. All impermanent things are results. So we know that bodhicitta is a result. Bodhicitta has a cause. Entering the Mahayana path has a qualifier. That is bodhicitta. Bodhicitta has a cause, and that's what we're learning about every single class. What is that? The Mahayana is the source of all your own and others' excellence, the medicine removing all degeneration, and the great path traveled by all wise beings that nurtures and nourishes all beings through seeing, hearing, remembering, and touching. Engage in this best of vehicles with whatever ability of a great being you have and think, oh, I have found exactly what I was looking for. Now let's do our best to set that motivation to say that I'm attending this teaching right now to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, to be complete. I don't want any incompleteness. I don't want any incompleteness in my own goodness, and I don't want any incompleteness in my relationship with others, in my ability to help others, fulfilling all of my needs and fulfilling all sentient beings' needs at the same time. If that's the way to be the happiest person, the most reliable person in the universe, then wouldn't it make sense for us to do that? And it only makes sense for us to do that. And here we are at a teaching where we're learning exactly what we need to do. The teaching shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity, exactly what we need to do to set the foundation for the teachings of supreme capacity, the teachings for beings of great capacity, to set the foundation, to set the smooth road for us to then generate bodhicitta and have the road that only goes to Buddhahood, the Mahayana path. I'm attending this teaching to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. And then try, and what we'll talk about later in the teaching is seeing how everything that you do with your body, speech, and mind can be motivated by bodhicitta. Everything. Don't say anything that isn't for the benefit of others. Wow, that's a high bar. Don't do anything with your body that isn't the benefit of others. Wow, that's a high bar. Don't think anything that's not just for the benefit of others. That's a high bar. But that's an actual achievable goal. That's what's so wild about this. And beings who have achieved this or seemingly have gotten darn close are glowing and glow with a happiness that I couldn't even like imagine having. And I can feel that they're happier than anyone that I've ever met. So, with that being said, let's imagine all the beings in the space in front of us who know that this is the pathway to fulfilling our needs and all of sentient beings' needs, to being complete and not an incomplete place. Those beings imagine they're complete and that they relied upon the the exact stages of the path to enlightenment that we will rely upon. There isn't any secret they're holding that they're not telling us. The Buddhas came to this world, and the authentic Indian commentators, and all the wonderful Tibetan commentators, and the other traditions all around the world to help us to understand this. Now, just they understand exactly how to do this, and they didn't leave anything out. All of the teachings are there for us to have. They don't all work unless we have the foundations for them to work. Like Tantra doesn't work unless it's infused with bodhicitta and emptiness. So we're learning what is emptiness and how do we get bodhicitta so that later we can actually practice the resultant vehicle. And it's an integrated path, yes, so that we receive blessings within our mind stream. But we better not deceive ourselves. If we don't thoroughly know that samsara is a blazing pit, and that when we go somewhere and we get together with our Dharma friends, if we're not talking about Dharma, and we're just like, oh, hey, did you hear about, we're talking about words that are leaving imprints to create more blazing pits. We've really got to become clear on what it is that we're doing in our daily life to try to become enlightened. And that doesn't mean, oh, because this is Buddhism. It means because we hate suffering, we like happiness. We hate suffering, we like happiness. So we should be paying attention with our spine, our mind of introspection, and the mindfulness, saying, hey, I remember what it is that would make me actually have happiness and not have suffering. So those beings are our role models and our guides in the space in front of us who figured it out and come back again and again and again to our worlds and to teach us, to show us how to discover for ourselves what they've discovered, not how to worship them, how to worship our potential, And that's a lot different than worshiping them, worshiping the potential that I have, and knowing that if I do exactly what was done, then I will achieve that exact state of the Buddha. Imagining extensive deeds lineage, profound view lineage, lineage of blessings, all of the incredible masters of the old Kadampa tradition, all of the enlightened Tibetan masters, Nyingma Kaju, Sakya, Gelug, Jonang, Butang, all of the different lineages of Shilo, I think is one. I don't know anything about these, but I've heard these other lineages that are more not as, kind of common as the four main Nyingma, Sakya, Kaju, and Galut. There's some other smaller lineages that are very important. Bhutan Rinchen Drup, incredible tantric master and commentator. There's a whole lineage related to that. Yeah, we won't get into it. Yeah, we won't get into the different lineages and how they broke off and so forth. But or were maybe part of a made more part of a main lineage and that, yeah, in the first place. But that's okay. But imagine all of the beings in the space in front of us, and the highest Yoga Tantra, Performance Tantra, Action Tantra, protector deities, all of the 35 Buddhas. Now imagine that you bring all sentient beings to be your guest here. Not the ones on Pluto first. Start with the ones that you actually know, that you've seen, those people who are close to you, then those strangers that you see around, and then those difficult people. Bring every single sentient being here in the universe and recognize that we've had a relationship with every single one of them in a loving and caring way, and they've taken care of us when we were vulnerable. And at this moment, we give them different labels because we've forgotten the other ones. And there's such uncertainty in cyclic existence that we should be used to becoming comfortable with changing our minds about how we feel about people. We can see, as in the Lam Rim says, Bodhisattva Shantideva says, that we've seen many times where we have a friend who becomes an enemy and an enemy who becomes a friend. We're real good at changing our minds about stuff. And those people that we find so difficult and so awful right now, we might come to think, oh, they kind of have some good points. I kind of like them. Or, you know, that person, I thought was really, really a bad person. Now they've done something for me, so they're great. We see how our minds are so weak. So invite every single sentient being here because you recognize that we depend on each other. And I will depend on you to become a Buddha. My happiness depends upon me caring about you. And you and you and you and you times every single sentient being in the universe. My happiness, the perfection of my happiness requires me to care about every single sentient being in the universe. And we're learning how to do that. We're learning how to neglect our needs and put others first. But if we need to take care of our needs to take care of others, we don't neglect our needs. So it's not a path of, oh, I'm just being a martyr and I want to, have people trample all over me. No, it's saying like, be smart about your perspective. Do you really need that extra piece of cake? Are you having that for the sake of sentient beings to make your body stronger so that you can go out and help others? Or are you just attached to it? Stand back and assess it for a moment. So it's really looking at, am I putting something in my mouth for the sake of others? Am I walking somewhere for the sake of others? It's really looking at all of those things and figuring out how, when we say I give my body, speech, and mind to the Buddhas, it's not like we're like literally giving it to them, like in a way, like enjoy it and, eat me or something strange. No, we're saying like, hey, what the Buddha says I need to do in order to become enlightened, I give up. I give up. Everything I've been trying to do to get happiness and be free from suffering has not worked. So I'm going to give in. I give up. I'm going to do what you say to do with my body. I'm going to do what you say to do with my speech. I'm going to do what you say to do with my mind. That's what offering my body, speech, and mind to the Buddha means. When I offer my body, speech, and mind to sentient beings in the Lojong teachings, the mind training teachings, it means that, okay, normally I just use this speech and this body and my thinking to fulfill all of my needs. Now I'm going to switch that and I'm going to use my body to do what would make you happy. And I'm going to use my speech to say what would make you happy. And when I say make you happy, it means in the most skillful way, help you to evolve and make you happy also. Mundane happiness bodhisattvas try to engage in for sure to to gather to gather individuals to be able to teach the truth of suchness. Yeah. So it's important to understand, what we're driving at and how we go about driving to it. How we go about um, making these things manifest so that they can have some impact on our lives and then convince us that it actually makes any sense. Um, you know, I'm going to think not about me, I'm going to think about you. I'm going to do something with my body to help you instead of just to help me, grab. I'm going to give. I'm going to help you with my body. I'm going to think about you. And I'm going to have a spy in my mind to make sure I'm thinking about you. When I mean you, I mean at a macro level, all sentient beings. I'm going to have mindfulness knowing that I'm not supposed to forget. I'm supposed to be thinking about you, not thinking about me. And a spy in my mind seeing if I'm doing that. And if I'm thinking about you and not thinking about me, we know that karma is intention. You know that everything that happens with our speech and our body is because of our intention of our mind. There's karma that is intention and karma that is intended action. So my intentions should be for the sake of others, and my intended actions should be for the sake of others. And that's what it means for me to give my body, speech, and mind to all sentient beings, to give my body, speech, and mind to the Buddhas. And this confused me for like 20 years, and I just kind of let it go. Like, oh, you can have all of me. You can just have all of me. Yeah, I'm just so humble. Just even take my pores. And there's part of that. In some practices, you actually give yourselves to like demons. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what it means to give your body, speech, and mind up to the Buddha. Give your mind, body, speech, and mind up to all sentient beings. So I think I just wanted to share that with you because I was confused about that for decades and tried to do this practice where I would be like, here, in my meditation, here, whatever it is you need to do, and that's just absurd. But we take small doses of this, and as Khensur Geshe Wangdak, Namgyal Khensur Geshe Wangdak Rinpoche always said that our practice needs to be consistent. Don't rush, make it like a stream, doing it all the time, but don't do it in a crazy, erratic way, like too much all at once, because it won't be good for you. Geshe Dorji Damdul in the last class, the ending semester of the master's course, gave a warning. He said that emptiness should be taken in small doses. He said that if you have tuberculosis and you take all the medicine at once that you need to do for 6 months, you'll die. So emptiness, these things need to be taken in very consistent small doses, in a systematic way, in a complete way, so that there isn't any misunderstanding and there isn't any way that you go crazy. Or have this fake renunciation that you're angry at the suffering that you had. You're angry that you lost your spouse. You're angry that you lost your mom, your dad, or that your dog died, or that your dog's sick. My dog's sick. You're angry about that. And then as soon as everything's all better, it's party time and samsara is just fine. Take the good, take the bad. That's the facts of life. They made a show and they sang that to us when we were a youth over and over again, that you take the good, you take the bad. You're all singing it right now because I know how old you all are. You're singing it. All right. Hell, hungry ghost, animal, human, demigods, and gods. Bring everyone here, starting and do it in the order as the Lamrim. We start with our close ones, then our strangers, then our difficult people, and use all of the tools that we've learned to use. Now, all sentient beings are here. All the Buddhas are here. Imagine they're looking into your eyes with immense loving kindness, affection, just as a mother looks at her only child, you knowing that they are only thinking about how can I have that person become the happiest individual in the universe and never suffer again? How can I have this irreversible state happen for them? What can I tell them to make that happen? I will jump at any moment to make you happy and free you from suffering, just like a mother would her only child, seeing a child about to fall off a cliff. That's how a Buddha reacts to seeing us in cyclic existence. That's really powerful. So imagine that kind of being who cares about you so much is looking at every single sentient being in the universe, and they feel that same love and compassion and kindness. And when you're around these beings, you actually feel those emotions. I know that sounds weird, and oh, how do you feel someone else's love? You actually do. You actually feel that they care for you more than anything else in the world. And you feel like you're the one they care for more than anything else in the world. And the person sitting next to you feels like they're the person they care about more than anything else in the world. And that's the mark of an unbiased bodhisattva, which I've experienced in my life, in front of me, multiple times with different individuals. Now, quite a few, because of the kindness of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and bringing the Nalanda tradition and making sure that it was in India and reestablished after the invasion of Tibet. So now, with this kind of vibe we set, imagine that the place transforms in the space in front of us into Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, where the emptiness of intrinsic existence was taught. The second turning of the wheel, where Buddha meant what he said, where the Buddha explained the mode of existence of all phenomena. And we talk about, compassion, and then we talk about emptiness, or bodhicitta, and then we talk about emptiness. But these two really, really work with one another. They're friendly with one another, because once you study emptiness, you know that the not knowing emptiness is what's throwing you into this pit over and over again. And then you see that other sentient beings like you are thrown into this pit over and over again because of this same ignorance. So then your understanding of emptiness enhances your compassion, because you recognize that, oh my gosh, these people are out of control, like me, Ninji. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And then when you see that you have suffering and you want to help them, you come to find out that without knowing what the truth of suchness is yourself, your hands are tied. You can't really help them. So there's this compatibility of emptiness and bodhicitta that helps us. It says in the Acharya Dharmakirti's Pramanavartika Karika, the commentary on the compendium for valid cognition, no contradiction exists between seeing the selflessness of person and the knowledge of suffering of other beings. Arhats generate love towards the beings who are designated on the phenomena of the aggregates which came into being due to the early composition of karma and afflictions. So there's no incompatibility between seeing things as merely imputed in dependence upon a collection of among the 4 or 5 aggregates that serve as a basis of designation, and those merely imputed beings suffering and having merely imputed compassion for them. Attachment arises due to reification of self and others. And that attachment arises on the basis of a phenomena that doesn't have a self. So that arises from the basis of something that's not true. Whereas the arhats generate love towards beings. That bifurcation doesn't take place because of the interdependent understanding, realizing that they are merely imputed on the basis of the continuum of the aggregates of suffering nature. So we see that this compatibility of emptiness and compassion, and how once we realize that there's no self of person, that doesn't mean that there's no person. We realize there's no self of phenomena. That doesn't mean there's no phenomena. It just means that there's a mode of existence of all of these things that we've never even considered. And the mode of existence that we just succumb to because it appears to us is wrong. We decide that what's appearing is 100% correct in terms of the intrinsicality of things, the concreteness of things, the concreteness of me, the concreteness of you, the concrete of me and you that keeps me from getting out of myself to get to you to be happy. When you feel like this, does this feel good? Or Does this feel good? This is the self-cherishing, self-grasping ignorance, this bifurcation of self and other. You intrinsically exist. I intrinsically exist. We're intrinsically different. From that, attachment and aversion arise. And from that, all the killing and sufferings of samsara ensue. So we look at this and we see that these are all ignorance is the root of flaws, such as aversion, that apprehends the beings with selfhood. So in the absence of that ignorance, aversion does not arise from the cause of the flaws. Therefore, the love arhats have do not lead to the flaws such as aversion. Okay, so that when there's not attachment mixed in love, when we don't have these things that can make us angry, we have love, we get angry. If we get jealous, if someone else comes at something that we love, we're attached to it. There's a lot of, then they say something we don't like, we push them away. That's not the kind of love that one who understands the nature of reality generates. So there's a union of these two understandings. So at the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, the Buddha taught emptiness of intrinsicality. And it's called the Heart Sutra, as we all know. And hidden within it are the five Mahayana paths that are necessary to traverse and to see realize emptiness conceptually and then realize emptiness directly over and over again to remove the afflictive obscurations and the cognitive obscurations, or the afflictive obscurations and the obstructions to omniscience. So that's what we have. That's what Buddha doesn't have. It sounds technical, but we have obstructions to omniscience and afflictive obstructions, and the Buddha doesn't. And that's the whole difference. So we need to figure out how to get rid of those things, remove them, and then we'll be Buddha. It's just a removal that needs to take place. There's just the stains are adventitious, which means that they're extra, they're an add-on in our mind. Our mind is in the nature of clear light. So there's a removal that needs to take place. There's a path that is a remover, and that's the Arya path. And the Arya path removes the acquired afflictions and the innate afflictions that allow us to, if it's on the bodhisattva track, if we're doing it as bodhisattvas, if we've generated this bodhicitta we're talking about over and over and over again, while we're realizing emptiness, then we'll become Buddhas. And if we do not generate this mind we keep talking about over and over and over again, we will be incomplete, even if we've developed renunciation and achieve an abiding nirvana over here or a solitary realizer. And this is what we're talking about at the beginning of a class in the medium stage of the path to enlightenment. So, therefore, understanding emptiness is indispensable. There's no other path, according to Acharya Dharmakirti, to liberation than the knowing emptiness. There's no other way. Without the realization of emptiness, there's no way to be free. And Bodhisattva Shantideva said, if the only way to freedom is the wisdom realizing emptiness, then what else is there to do? I thought that was great. So the Heart Sutra comes to tell us that things don't intrinsically exist, but things do exist. And the nature of phenomena have two natures. The primary subject matter here is the ultimate truth, but all phenomena have two natures, conventional truth and ultimate truth. And it's different minds that realize those truths. The mind of ultimate analysis realizes ultimate truth, and the mind of conventional analysis realizes conventional truth. Nothing exists ultimately. Everything exists conventionally. The ultimate truth is that nothing exists ultimately. And the way we arrive at that is finding out through ultimate analysis of objects such as phenomena, person, and other than person, to see whether or not they have some mode of existence that they seem to have called intrinsic existence. So ultimate analysis is done on persons and phenomena other than persons to find out whether they have this mode of existence that appears to us to intrinsically exist. And intrinsic existence and existence are not synonymous for the Madhyamaka Prasangika practitioner. So there's a very fine line, a very fragile way of existence that we have to come to realize that's the actual mode of existence, that's a subjective mode of existence, and do away with the intrinsic existence that we think that there is. And the way that we do away with it is we look for it with a mind called ultimate analysis. And that mind looks everywhere there is for it and then just comes to a conclusion, I can't find this, and rests there, and then comes out of it, and then the mind of conventional analysis says, hey, this thing that is appearing to me, a really smart tool in my mind, another way of looking at things in my mind, another perspective of my mind, was able to crack open this thing that's appearing to me and find out that there is nothing intrinsically one or intrinsically different from its parts to be found. So what gives? Because I'm still able to talk and make a cup of coffee and, make a phone call, and I just realized that things don't intrinsically exist. So I thought that meant existence. So now I have to come up with some sort of harmony, and this is the doses. What is that harmony? How could it be? Physics says there's a two-slit experiment. Without the subject, there's no object. Okay, physics says that. So now Madhyamaka Prasangika is somehow saying that I'm involved in the creation, or the projection, better, of everything around me, in the imputation of what it all is. Projecting and imputing, projecting and imputing, projecting and imputing. Eating the shit of intrinsic existence. Projecting and imputing. And projecting and imputing a nature on everything around me and myself that doesn't exist. And that's why we're so full and worried. The Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha, monks, and a great gathering of the Sangha, bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi that expresses the Dharma, called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajaparamita addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice profound Prajaparamita should see in this way. Seeing the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, feeling, discrimination, feeling, perception, formation, consciousness, here. In the same way, form, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are emptiness. I'm just trying to insert better translations of the words for the five aggregates. So we have form, we have feeling, we have discrimination, we have compositional factors, and we have consciousness. So all five aggregates are empty of intrinsic existence. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. So we look at all impermanent things that can be included within the five aggregates. That's another story. That's just the form aggregate encompasses a lot of things, and so forth. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no eye, datu. Up to no mind, datu, no daughter of dharmas, no mind, consciousness, datu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance, up to no old age and death, no end of age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment, no reward. Shariputra, since the Bodhisattva said no attainment, they five memories of Prajaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the three times by means of Prajaparamita fully awakened to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as truth, since there is no deception. The Prajaparamita mantra is said in this way: Teata om gate gate paragate parasangate buddhi soha. Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train the profound Prajaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, the whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. For all you sharp folks out there. Kala jibe ne jodan ba ne ngushe du chunga yi du do jen ju ba bo lama yi bu shen si ne sun kan jo sa la cha se zo la cha se lo aga samara ja chandara samara vega samara chandara aga samara ja chandara samara aga samara ja chandara samara ya be de ya tong ka de para sang ka de buddhi so baba kun sun ji ka ye de be du ji she lo do ji me ba du ji shi wa do ji jagi ba ji me de be ji dan ji je ring go ye so gerin do de ji gerin don ja ji ju shi wa dan me du nu be ji nan ro wa dan tum ba du The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples, as we are ready, a shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. Zashi Böji Zhu Me Do Dran Ri Ra Lin Ji Ni Re Jen Ba Di San Ye Jin Du Mi Te O A Yi Zhou Gu Nan Da Jin La Shu Ba Shu Jie Zun Lama Dan Ba Jie Nan Ji Ju Ju Ga La Jian Zai Jun Zin Ji Jie Da Zang Bei Du Jie Zin Ma La Sa Jie Ju Ji Ja Ba Ba Du Zo Idan Guru Ratna Mandala Gani Rata Yami San Jie Jo Dan Zo Ji Jo Nan La Shan Ju Ba Du Da Ni Ja Su Ji Da Gi Ju Ji Ji Bei Zon Nan Ji Zhe La Ben Ji San Jie Ju Ba Shu San Jie Jo Dan Zo Ji Jo Nan La Shan Ju Ba Du Da Ni Ja Su Ji Da Gi Ju Ji Ji Bei Zon Nan Ji Zhe La Ben Ji San Jie Ju Ba Shu San Jie Jo Dan Zo Ji Jo Nan La Shan Ju Ba Du Da Ni Ja Su Ji Da Gi Ju Ji Ji Bei Zon Nan Ji Zhe La Ben Ji San Jie Ju Ba Shu. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. If you are attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. If you're attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you're attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there is grasping, you do not have the view. Alrighty, let's read the foundation of all good qualities as a blessing, the Lamrim text that we're working off of. And then we'll get into a little bit of commentary from Lama Tsongkhapa's text, and then we'll end. The source of all my good by Lama Tsongkhapa, the Yunten Chijurma, Yunten Gun Chijurma. The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to them in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow them with all my strength and reverence. Bless me first to realize that the excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I've died, the things I've done, the white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrongs of the many wrongs we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. Bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. Lama Tsongkhapa's saying, please bless me. Let me transform my magnificent potential into recognizing that I am in a fiery pit. I am in jail. And I can't get enough of this. And I can't get enough of the happiness in the jail, but it can't be trusted because it's bait. And it's the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of liberation. I want to be not in a fiery pit, eating cheesecake in a fiery pit. Temporary feeling a little cool because I'm in an air-conditioned room in a fiery pit. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality, or the Parada Moksha vows, the essence of my practice. They are the root of Buddha's teachings. What was Lama Tsongkhapa saying? I'm in a fiery pit. I've slipped and fallen into the sea of this suffering life. So now I've got to be convinced that there's nothing about life that isn't suffering. Nothing about samsaric life that isn't suffering. There is life without suffering. It's called liberation or Buddhahood. But the life that I have in samsara will always be suffering. And I'm in a fiery pit. And I know it. And I know it's driven by self-grasping ignorance. And I know I can get out. And now let me see that every living being, everyone my own mother has fallen into. And I know that they can get out. Grant me then to practice the wish for enlightenment, to take on myself the task of freeing them all. This all makes so much sense. Buddhism is explained in such abstract ways so often. This is not abstract at all. This is cause and effect, and our minds can mature. And if we create the causes for maturation, maturation will occur. If we don't create the causes for maturation, maturation won't occur. If we create the causes to move backwards, moving backwards will occur. If we walk backwards, we go backwards. If we walk forwards, we go forwards. The Buddhist path is exactly the same thing. Bless me to see clearly that just wishing that I could help everyone's not enough. I got to do something. For if I'm not well trained in the three moralities, I can't become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the Bodhisattva vows, the 18 root, the 46 secondary, the vows of the six perfections, the 10 perfections, the six perfections for my own needs, the other four perfections for fulfilling others' needs. Grant that I may quickly gain the path where calm abiding and insight join together, one which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects, the other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. This union of calm abiding and special insight, where I analyze the fact that things are empty of intrinsic existence, and the understanding that's opposite of that keeps me in cyclic existence, and you too. Grant that once I practice all of this well, and I'm got bodhicitta and understand emptiness, and I'm a vessel that's worthy, because one that's worthy is someone who understands emptiness and bodhicitta, which has all the pre-causes of the small and medium scope, then enter Tantra, the way of the diamond, highest of all ways, holiest door to come inside for the fortune and good. Bless me to know with genuine certainty that when I've entered thus, the cause that gives me all the attainments is to keep my pledges and my vows most pure. Grant me then always to keep them, even at the cost of my life. Bless me next to realize as well as I can the crucial points of both the steps, the essence of the secret ways. And for me to think that tantric vows are as important as my life, I'm going to need some serious foundation that I don't already have. Grant me then to practice as the holy ones have spoken, putting all my effort in and never leaving off the practice of the four times, highest that there is. Grant me then that the spiritual friend and who shows me this good road, and all my true companions in this quest live long and fruitful lives. Bless and grant me that the rain of obstacles, things within me or outside me that could stop me now, stop and end forever. In all my lives, may I never live apart from my perfect lamas. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly where I become myself the one who holds the diamond. So when I said it's not like looking at, bowing down to a being that you can never be. It's saying like, help me to understand what I need to do to discover Buddhahood so that I can be Vajradhara, so that I can be the one who holds the diamond. So I then can be the one that beings rely upon, so I can be reliable. That's what this is all about. It's not about something abstract. It's about something very clear. There's things that are kind of abstract about lower realms and things that we can't really see. But Geshe Dorji Damdul brought up a really good point. Where do our nightmares come from? We can have some really scary monster nightmares that occur. Not that we saw them on TV. No, no, no. No, we didn't see a show with all that stuff in it. We didn't read a book with all that stuff in it. We naturally have some imprint in our mind of some pretty weird stuff. And then we have sayings like Gen Jeffrey Hopkins says that actually relate to the lower realms. Don't bite my head off. There's a hell realm where you like are trying to get up to your friend who's like an illusion, and you get there and it bites your head off. You see how these things could be possible. And if that's possible, and this isn't the worst of it, and the slugs in the garden and the boiling lobster isn't the worst of it, there's somewhere that I could be a boiling lobster and it wouldn't end. It wouldn't go and then die, or I would just keep going, just all the noises the lobster makes that people say, oh, it's just the compression of the shell. No, it's a being who you're boiling alive. So like that. But imagine that sucker doesn't stop. That's you. And you just make that noise for an eon. You do the math. Look at the Lamrim Chemo in the first volume and look at the math on the hell realm. 1 day in the human realm is 50 days in this. I can't do all the math, but it's a long time of and when you put that lobster in there, think about that. And think about that person cared for you so much, and this is how you repay them. Thus, so let's look at Lama Tsongkhapa's section on exchanging self with others. I mean, this is about tasting our own vomit, as Venerable Rabina Korten said about 25 years ago in a room I was in. This isn't about flowers and dancing and holding hands and enjoying ourselves, I did that at Grateful Dead concerts. This is about tasting our own vomit and knowing that it's who we are that's got to be turned inside out if we really want to be happy and not have suffering. So this is where we need to land. And I need to now land at a place where I prove I'm not a robot. I've seen what AI does to the teachings, and I really don't think I sound like a robot. Okay. I hope there's robots who make things, accurate and don't when I Google things, AI says things it's like it's kind of accurate. All right. All right, so what are we doing? We figured out that we've got a couple problems. If we want to get rid of the self-cherishing attitude and practice equalizing and exchanging self with others, we have to get rid of this idea that there's this intrinsic difference between self and other. And then we have to get rid of this idea that your suffering doesn't hurt me. It's your suffering. It's not my problem. So we have to get rid of those ideas. We looked at some logic to help us get rid of it. This logic you've got to read over and over and over and over again, and then read it over and over again next year. Do it 5 years later, 10 years later. And I assure you that this page 54 of the second volume into 55 is a very complex, let's go with 53 to 55, is an extremely complex point that Lama Tsongkhapa is making. We went through that. We did our best. And now we're seeing, okay, you've been trying, now Lama Tsongkhapa says you've tried your best to get happiness, and all you've been doing is having a bad time. And if you had, you know, and you've been having a bad time because you've only been worried about yourself. And had you switched that, you would no longer be having a bad time. You'd have permanent happiness. You'd be a Buddha a long time ago, but you didn't switch that. So now you're who you are. And if you had switched that, then you'd be a Buddha. So Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, hey, you better come to the determination that the self-cherishing attitude's your enemy, your greatest enemy, and it isn't any external thing. It's something inside you that's making you suffer again and again and again, driven by, of course, the self-grasping ignorance. So that this idea of stopping the self-cherishing attitude that's harming you in lifetime after lifetime, as Bodhisattva Shantideva says, is what we need to come to the conclusion of, that this is a harmer of me. And then we left off here. So it says, thus, neither be self-sent, neither, okay, so let's do the quote. Engaging in the Bodhisattva Shantideva's, that's a whole bunch of words together. Engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds by Bodhisattva Shantideva says, page 55 in the second volume, self-cherishing has harmed me in all my myriad lifetimes in cyclic existence. You, O mind, though you spent countless eons wanting to accomplish your own welfare, through such great hardship you have accomplished only suffering. So here it says that we've been useless. We've uselessly and we've laboriously done things to try to be happy, and none of it's worked. If formerly you had acted for others' welfare, this condition which lacks the perfect happiness of Buddhahood could not possibly have occurred. So your state of non-Buddha is because you didn't make yourself one. You cherished yourself instead of cherishing others. Thus, neither be self-centered nor support self-centered tendencies. You must train again and again in the attitude of freely giving to all beings your own body, resources, and roots of virtue, and you must work for the welfare of those to whom you give these things. So here, again, I explained that at the beginning. What can I do with my body, speech, and mind for you? Let me imagine that I'm giving you all of my roots of virtue. And because we're all interconnected, there's a cooperative condition that could take place that could actually help you. And you must work for the welfare of those to whom you give these things. It is wrong to do the opposite, so stop the attitude which sees your own body, resources, and the roots of virtue as being for your own purpose. And then Bodhisattva Shantideva says, now I'm controlled by others. So I explained that at the beginning of the teaching for a reason. Now I'm controlled by others. You, O mind, know this for certain. Now do not think of anything other than the welfare of all beings. So what would this body, speech, and mind be doing if it was only working for you? Do that. It's wrong to achieve my own aims with my eyes, etc., that are under others' control. Like I shouldn't be looking at something being like, wow, I really want that because I'm supposed to be working for your needs. So I should be doing with my eyes something that is beneficial for you. This is where it starts to get really subtle. Am I looking at something like say I see something that I find attractive, whatever it is, if it's a human or if it's a guitar, or if it's a car, or if it's a house, or if it's a sunset, if I find something that is attractive and I fixate on it, that is attachment. That's actually keeping myself from moving towards Buddhahood. And I said that I'm going to get there as quick as I can for you. So, me being attached to something with these eyes is actually means I'm lying because I said that I was just going to try to work for others' welfare, and now I'm using my eyes to 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 try to feel better in some way by enjoying the sunset. Very tricky, but it's not saying don't have a good time. It's saying make sure that your good time is others are in there in your mind. And this is a very, very subtle point. If you lose the thought that your body, etc., are for others' welfare and think that they are for your own benefit, or you see them as agents of physical, verbal, or mental harm to others, so even worse, you may think, oh, this is all for me. But then maybe, then worse, you could say this is an agent of harm, not just working for me, but also harm. Then stop this way of thinking by contemplating how this previously brought you limitless harm and how you are still mistaken with regard to its appearance of helpfulness, which is false. If you are controlled by this wrong way of thinking, it produces only unbearable suffering. And then Bodhisattva's Guide to the Shanti did it again. Bodhisattva Shanti Deva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. It's translated in a different way of here. It's translated as engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds. So in my mind, I'm changing it and then mixing it all up. Bodhisattva Shanti Deva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. Entering the Bodhisattva's deeds is fine. Engaging in the Bodhisattva's deeds is fine. This jupa could be entrance. It could be supplement. It's the same entering the middle way, Acharya Chandrakirti's text. Yeah, whatever. So engaging in the Bodhisattva Shanti Deva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life says, when you, self-cherishing, ruined me before, that was another time. Now I recognize you. Where will you go? I will destroy all your arrogance. So it's saying, now I see the problem. You can't hide. This internal thing that's going to react, it can't hide anymore. It can react and it can do damage, but it can't hide anymore because I know that it's my nemesis. It's my enemy. And I'm controlled by it. It says that now and it can't go anywhere it's like once you've been poisoned by the truth. Yeah, you know the truth. You know that this thing's bad for you. Dispel the thought, I still have my own welfare. I have sold you my mind to others. I should just be thinking about others. I said I want to become a Buddha for your sake. So what's my mind doing thinking about my sake? I'm supposed to be neglecting my needs and thinking of your needs. Do not be dispirited over your energy. Offer your energy. If I become careless and do not give you to beings, you will certainly give me over to the guardians of hell. So if I don't work for others' welfare and I'm just selfish and doing things with this body, speech, and mind for me, well, certainly this body will just hand me over to the lower realms. This will be, it's like just saying it, just think about it in an artistic way. If this body's doing bad things, it's just handing me to the lower realms. Thus, you gave me over to long periods of suffering. You've done this over and over. And now I remember my grudges. I will destroy your selfish thoughts. Similarly, when you repeatedly reflect on the benefits of cherishing others, you produce powerful enthusiasm from the depths of your heart. So now we've gone through. We're going to learn about the 9 steps, equalizing, exchanging self with others. First is the equalizing self and other. And we saw this in the beginning. We're both empty of intrinsic existence. And then normally you'd hear, we both want happiness and want to be free from suffering and various other things. Now we've gotten into the downfalls of the self cherishing attitude. That's step number two. And now we're moving on to the benefits of cherishing others. Um, so, well, let's see if it follows in that. Because the 9 steps then would go to the giving, the Tonglen practice of giving and taking, and then an actual exchange of self and others, and then a remembrance of the great kindness of others, and then altruism, and then the result of bodhicitta. So now we're learning about the benefits of cherishing others. Discontinue your present attitude. Similarly, when you repeatedly reflect on the benefits of cherishing others, you produce powerful enthusiasm from the depths of your heart. Discontinue your present attitude of disregarding others and keep your potential disregard of others from arising. Through affectionately viewing others as dear, and beloved as much as you can. So this is a really kind thing that Lama Tsongkhapa puts here. And every word Lama Tsongkhapa writes is important. He is very efficient. He didn't write to the degree you can here because he thinks that you're a bodhisattva handing your eyeballs to people. He's saying, do what you can, and then tomorrow, hopefully you can do a little more. And Arya Nagarjuna says that bodhisattvas will give their eyes, but you should maybe hand a sentient being some vegetables first. Great advice. So it says that through affectionately viewing others as dear and beloved as much as you can, develop an attitude that cherishes others to the degree to which you previously cherished yourself. Cherish others as you do yourself, it says in the text. To produce the attitude that cherishes beings in this way, you must remember their kindness or recognize that they help you. For example, once farmers see that through sowing healthy seeds they will reap a good and abundant harvest, they value a fertile field. Likewise, once you are certain that you will accomplish all temporary and final well-being through sowing the seeds of generosity and so forth, meaning the 6 perfections or the 10 perfections. We know that 6 perfections begin with generosity, then ethics, then patience, then effort, then concentration, and then wisdom. And so it says you will cherish others, reflect on this, and then engaging in the bodhisattva's deeds states, living beings and conquerors are similar. From them you achieve a Buddha's qualities. How is it that you do not respect living beings just as you respect conquerors? So it's saying here that you should have the equal reverence for every being in the universe as you do for a Buddha. And they're as kind. And then it'll sometimes say kinder. Wow. Can we do that? Can we feel the same way we do about the Dalai Lama, those of us who believe he's the Buddha of compassion? And then fill in a blank of someone who you really think is the exact opposite of his holiness in the world, a destroyer of the world instead of a creator of peace and love and compassion. Now, can you feel the same way? Yeah. Can you respect that other being, that monster you think is a monster, as much as his holiness, as a being, an individual, taking his holiness as a human out, just say as the Buddha of compassion? Can you respect someone destroying the world as much as the Buddha of compassion and say that I will become enlightened? You're as important to my enlightenment as the Buddha. You, person, I consider a terrible person. It's a lot that we're being asked, right? But if it's the medicine we have to take, then we have to take the medicine. If it's the operation we have to do the operation. If it's some sort of a war against that has to be waged, there's going to be casualties. There's going to be hurts that are done. We wage a war on our self-cherishing attitude and our self-grasping ignorance. It's going to hurt. It's not going to be an easy journey. And it needs to be done consistently, slowly, and taken in doses every single day. Taking a dose of compassion, taking a dose of love, taking a dose of emptiness, and scratching away with the love and compassion at the self cherishing attitude, scratching away at the self grasping ignorance with the wisdom, slowly, slowly, but surely. And you start to put weeks and months and years together and then decades together. If you do it, I assure you, if you do this even 5 or 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, but do it consistently, you will feel differently and you will discover that this is true. That's my sales pitch. I'm sticking to it. And it's not a sales pitch, there's nothing to sell. It's just whether you want happiness and want to be free from suffering or not. And if that's the case, then check out what causes suffering and see if it makes sense. See if what the Buddha said makes sense. See if you start to limit the thing that the Buddha says causes your suffering, if your suffering decreases or not. See if you start to remove the things Buddha says we're ignorant about, thinking things that are impermanent or permanent, thinking things that are kind of suffering or happy, thinking things that are, empty or are actually pure, thinking things that are selfless have a self. Like we have to fix all of this stuff that we're so confused about. And as you start to lessen the confusion that the Buddha said we're confused about, you'll discover for yourself that being less confused feels better. And with that being said, yeah, it's so amazing that we have this literature to rely upon, that we have these things that, can talk about, we're confused by dense gray clouds of worldly ignorance. Not being confused feels better. This is what we come to discover when we study Buddhism. Lama Tsongkhapa in the medium stages of the path, again, quoting Acharya Chandra Groman's letter to a friend. We're in these confused by dense gray clouds of worldly ignorance, and wisdom is an opponent to that. So start applying the wisdom that the Buddha talked about, cut it and rub it and see if it makes sense. See if that then makes you feel better to be less confused. That's it. The Buddha said, don't follow me because I'm a Buddha. Follow me because you've decided what I'm saying makes sense. And once you decide that this makes sense, then it's time to get working. But don't just start working on something you don't really believe, because you'll just stop working on it because you won't have been convinced yourself that it's valuable. So, anyway, with that being said, concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Any mistakes that I've made, I apologize. May they be purified by the mantra of Vajrasattva. Om Benza Sattva Samaya Manubalaya Benza Sattva Zaina Vajra Deda Meva Vazulugaya Meva Vazubugaya Meva Vanurata Meva Vasavazidi Mebraya Chesava Kamasuja Mekidam Chiam Kuruhum. Ha 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 Bhagavanza Vadagada Benza Mamimaga Benza Bava Mahasamaya Safa Om Be. Jarama 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 Dunja Gala Rajama Ramo Ajada Jadunjo Rulu Honjo. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri, and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the three times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. Jambel Bao Jeda Jamba Dan Gondu Zambo De Ande Jende De Da Gonji Jesu Da Loje Gewa De Da Danje Radungo Dusam Jebe Jewa Danje Ji Ngowa Gana Jodunga Ba De Da Jenge We Zawa De Gonjan Zambo Juje Radungo Warji. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase forevermore. Through this virtuous action, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead every being without exception into that enlightened state. In all my lives, may I never be separated from my perfect Gurus. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself myself, the one who holds the diamond. Jewa gondo yanda lama dan, jame juji bela lon juji, sadan lanji yunden razone, doji jangi go banyo dujo. From my two collections, vast is space, that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time. May I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Enirindu belezoni gadayamagani zabade Lomi marigidon roagum nam nanenye amodayori. In the heavenly realm of Tibet, surrounded by a chain of snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and help for beings, all powerful. Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Ganri Rawe, Gorwe, Jinjan Dia, Bendande, Wamalu, Junwene, Chenrezig, Wan Tenzin Gyatso, Yisha Bezi de Badu Den Dorji. And a prayer of supplication to Namgyal Khensur Geshe Wangdak Rinpoche, my root teacher, who, because of his kindness, I'm here talking. A complex yogi poses as a simple monk. Homage to Namgyal Khensur Geshe Wangdak Rinpoche, our precious spiritual friend, who is inseparable from Aryatara. I fully prostrate, covering as many atoms of the earth as possible to your pure body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. I offer to you drinking water, bathing water, flowers, incense, candles, scented water, food, and music purified by Oma, Om, Oma, Om, Oma, Om. The rarity of having 1 million wish fulfilling gems is a common occurrence compared to meeting with a holy teacher like you. Place the complete path to Buddhahood in our childlike hands. Just like Lord Atisha, who came to Tibet with a lamp to dispel the darkness of ignorance, you, kind abbot, arrived in the West with a lineage purer than a diamond and begged us never to be satisfied with partial instructions. The teachings of the extensive deeds and profound view lineages flowed from your lips like nectar for our ears that elucidated the teachings of beings of three capacities. Now that sound has stopped. All composite things are impermanent. You told us that all of your teachers passed away and understood the sadness in treating us to continue our studies. The Buddha does not wash away the negativities of beings, nor does he remove their miseries with his hands. His spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It is by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. We are not prepared to take this difficult journey to the highest goodness of Buddhahood without your continued guidance. Sadness in our hearts would be too overwhelming. May you swiftly return to this world and take care of us in all our lives, wherever we may be, never leaving our hearts in crowns. May all sentient beings perfectly realize renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness, so they know who you really are. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you around.